Good morning. Thank you for coming. Today we will hear first from Governor Gary Herbert. Then we will hear from Salt Lake City Mayor Erin Mendenhall, who will give an update on the city. Next we'll hear from County Mayor Jenny Wilson. Then Salt Lake City Police Chief Mike Brown will give us an update on police department operations. Salt Lake City Fire Chief Karl Lieb will give us an update on department status and the volume of calls. Jess Anderson, the Commissioner of Public Safety, will update on damage assessments and other reports gathered from across the state. And then Steve Bowman, Geologic Hazards Program Manager of the Utah Geologic Survey, will give a brief update about the earthquake and what's next.
I shut this. Well, thank you for being here. As most all of you know, we had a 5.7 magnitude earthquake here this morning at about 7:09 a.m. A lot of us got awakened in that process, and something we have not experienced very often here. The good news for us is there are no injuries that have been reported, no fatalities. We have some structural damages out there, and the biggest casualty is the disruption at the airport. The airport has been closed, which means no flights are coming in and no flights are going out. We believe that's a temporary situation, but it is certainly causing significant disruption for a lot of people, and certainly our state at the current time. This is extremely bad timing because we already have the coronavirus issue that's going on right now, which is causing a lot of anxiety as it is, and certainly Mother Nature has no, I guess, reference point for additional challenge that we face here today. I would just like to say that the good news for all of us is we've been preparing for this for a long time. When I was Lieutenant Governor, we started what was called Be Ready Utah program, trying to get people to be prepared for an untoward event, whether it be fire, flood, or earthquake. In fact, we've added to that every April. We've now had practice runs on the Great Shakeout, where we in fact go through drills on if we had an earthquake this day, what would we do? And at 7:09 a.m. this morning, those protocols went into place very smoothly. Our EOC is up and operational. We've had contact with everybody up and down the Wasatch Front, the Wasatch Back, and other places to coordinate efforts to make sure that the emergency steps are being taken to help our people. We've talked with those in the business community. Grocery stores are going to be open. There's going to be access to food and shelter. We do have some areas that we have some concerns with the shelters for some of our homeless people downtown that we're concerned about. Along with the Great Shakeout, we've also had a program called Fix the Bricks, where we've gone around to older dwellings here, particularly in downtown Salt Lake City and other areas, to in fact repair loose bricks so that if we have an earthquake that they don't fall out and hurt somebody. And so the protocol has taken place, and I feel very good. This was the dress rehearsals we've had in the past actually helped us prepare for this event today, the real thing. We're going to get some reports on what's taking place, some experts here today, and the earthquake experts, and talked about what we have coming forward. We have a lot of rumors out there that are false. And we'll have some comments made on what we can experience going forward over the next couple of weeks. We have had about 21 aftershocks, and that causes concern and probably anxiety. But the experts are telling us they're 95% sure that this was the big one, that there's not going to be a bigger earthquake coming over the next week or two. That being said, we ought to all be prepared, again, do the common sense things, making sure that we have medicines on hand, have your 72-hour kits, which is part of our protocol here. For everybody should have one of those if they need to evacuate some area. And again, the fact that we have taken steps means that most of the people of Utah are in fact prepared. Our last great shakeout drill, we had over 1 million people of Utah participate in that exercise. So that should give us some comfort. The biggest challenge we face, I think, right now is we have 235 power outages affecting just under 50,000 people, Rocky Mountain Power customers. The schools have stopped right now, and so they're not delivering meals. So they are at a full stop right now until further notice. UTA rail has been suspended temporarily until we get an assessment made and make sure that everything is safe to operate again. And as I mentioned, the Salt Lake Airport is closed temporarily until we make sure that everything is safe there. So all things considered, we've been very fortunate in the loss of, minimal loss of, and damage of structures. We have some leakage, some toxic spills, but they're being taken care of, and looks like they've all been contained. So we're in good shape, and I think we're very optimistic this will all be taken care of here in the next day or two and get us back to normal. So with that, Mayor, I'll let you speak next, and I'll go around this way so we don't read the same area.
Thank you, Governor.
I'm just gonna put this mic closer.
Sure. We've been through a lot this week as a city, and waking up to an earthquake is not something any of us wanted to have happen, but we couldn't be more prepared than we are right now. Our emergency systems are fully activated. Communications with our county and our state partners have been and are running smoothly. Our public safety system is fully functional. Our residents are better prepared to be at home than they probably have been at any time in the last many decades. Our city is resilient. We will get through this. Our city crews are assessing damage right now, and that work is ongoing. Salt Lake City owns about 88 buildings. We're assessing all of those structures, of course, our public utilities, our street system. Our crews are hard at work. Our airport, as was mentioned, is not currently operational. The concourses, terminals, and the FAA towers are all evacuated. There's damage in Concourse D due to a water main break. They're assessing other damage, but they report that the airfield itself is not damaged. We'll let you know, of course, as soon as we do when the airport will be resuming operations. Our emergency responders are responding to calls, obviously with priority going to serious ones, and we'll let our public safety directors speak to that in just a moment. I'm asking people to stay home, but be prepared in the event that there may be additional aftershocks. This is actually a great opportunity for us as residents to decide ourselves to stay put. Let the first responders who are out there doing the work they need to do, and let the crews who are assessing our critical infrastructure do the work they need to do. Staying home is a really good choice for everyone, in my opinion, as our mayor right now. The added benefit, of course, is that you minimize your risk of exposure to COVID-19 at the same time. Social distancing is still critically important, but social grace goes a long way in times like this. People are worried. People are afraid, and rightfully so. But please be kind, be generous, be forgiving. We all want the best, and we will get through this easier, and it will show our character even more as a community when we do so with grace. So thank you, Salt Lake City. Thank you for being with us today, and we will keep you up to date as the day progresses. I'll turn the time over to County Mayor Jenny Wilson.
Well, thank you. We wrapped up our briefing not long ago, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but just to reiterate that we would appreciate people staying home wherever possible. Took me just a few minutes to get here from our emergency communication center emergency coordinating center, and there were quite a few cars on the road. So let's stay home wherever possible. I think the mayor's comments were quite eloquent about caring for each other, and we do want to share that we are here for you. Our coordination is very, very strong, and I think great leaders like the governor, Mayor Mendenhall, leaders throughout our county are doing the work, and I have personally been touched by the amount of commitment from our emergency responders. We are good at it here in our community. I can tell you, having been able to work in government for some time, the men and women out working in the field know what they're doing. So we will, at Salt Lake County, continue to update I am most relieved that we don't have the loss of life or major injuries. I think that's after we all woke up this morning. That's what came to my mind, and I'm so pleased to be able to report that today. But we will continue to assess property damage, and from the Salt Lake County perspective, be continuing to report throughout the day. Thank you.
Good morning. I stand here today to assure you that Salt Lake City and the women and men of the Salt Lake City Police Department are prepared and trained to handle multiple emergencies like we're experiencing today. I want you to know that public safety and city leadership, and on that point I want to pause and say, Mayor Mendenhall, you're doing a great job. It's been one heck of a first 100 days, but you're doing well, and we're all very proud of you. I want you to know that we are all hard at work we want you to ensure that we remain operational. But I encourage everyone to utilize our technologies. You can go to saltlakeCityPD.com to our online reporting tool if you need to make a report. If you need to, call 799-3000. That's our non-emergency number. But also, if you need us and it's emergency, call 911. I want you to know that we'll be there for you. If you do call, and if you're talking to our call takers, please let them know if you're experiencing any symptoms of the coronavirus. That way, we can take the necessary precautions to respond and make sure that we are able to respond many, many times in the next few months. Also, please, again, I just want to say, remain calm. Heed the guidance and direction of our state and local government during this most hectic time. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Karl Lieb. I'm Salt Lake City Fire Chief. I just want to reassure everyone that all our fire stations are up and running. All our apparatus are in good condition, and most importantly, all our firefighters are in position. They have reported for duty. So we are responding to calls as we speak. Since 7:10 this morning, we have responded to approximately 150 calls for assistance throughout the city. We will continue to do so. Fortunately, we have had no serious injuries. We do have some damage to buildings throughout the city and county. We're responding to those as we speak and trying to validate that those buildings are safe to occupy. There are some 20 inspectors in the city doing just that right now, in addition to checking on all the key infrastructure throughout the city and the county. As Police Chief Mike Brown said, I want to reassure the residents of Salt Lake and, of course, Salt Lake County that if they call 911, we will respond. We are prepared. Given the COVID-19 precautions that are in place right now, of course, we will take precautions. And please let us know if you're experiencing any symptoms of that virus right now. It'd be very helpful. If the public would like to help us out, we ask that you please just remain at home today. Allow the first responders and those people that are addressing our infrastructure throughout the city to do their job. That helps us out dramatically. So thank you for listening. We appreciate your assistance.
I'm Steve Bowman, the Geologic Hazards Program Manager with the Utah Geological Survey. We're part of the Department of Natural Resources, and we're also part of a program called the Utah Earthquake Program. And it consists of the University of Utah seismograph stations, and Keith Coper, the director's here, and also the Utah Division of Emergency Management, and Bob Carey is also here with us today. And this Utah Earthquake Program, we respond and help prepare for earthquakes such as this. There's been a lot of reports out there that a very large earthquake, magnitude 8 or 9 is imminent. It is not. We can't get an earthquake greater than about magnitude 7.6, 7.7 here in this area of Utah in the Wasatch Fault. And as we go forward, we expect that we're going to continue to have some of these smaller aftershocks like we've been seeing. The governor mentioned that we've already had over 20, and I suspect that we're going to continue to have more as we go along, and Keith can elaborate a little more on that. We have groups of geologists that are out in the field looking at damage and also looking at geologic effects of damage, such as small landslides or liquefaction where sand can boil up from the ground. And so far, we've only seen very small geologic evidence of damage. Of course, some of these older buildings that are brick have had a lot more damage to them. And we're also working with some of the building inspectors and gathering that data in a digital clearinghouse. Is there anything that you wanted to add, Keith, on the earthquake?
Yeah, I can say a couple
Okay.
things. Yeah. So my name's Keith Cooper. I'm the director of the seismograph stations at University of Utah. And the first thing I want to say is just reiterate what Steve just said, which is that there's essentially zero probability of a magnitude 9 earthquake. So that's just a rumor that's been going around on social media. There is a slightly increased probability that we could have a magnitude, an earthquake that's a little bit bigger than a magnitude 5.7, but that's only a few percent probability, and it's going down in time. And so what you've already heard about the aftershocks, that's sort of what to expect. There should be hundreds, if not thousands, of magnitude 2s and 3s, but for the most part, they won't do any damage. So this is not the big earthquake. This is not the, quote, big one. This is a moderate-sized earthquake, and there's no need to panic.
Thank you. Jess Anderson, serving as the Commissioner of Department of Public Safety. In our capacity today, we have the Division of Emergency Management running the State Emergency Operations Center. I'm here to report that we are at a level 1 operating activation, which is fully operational. We have every person that has been always planned, prepared for, and at the table, and fully functional at this time. At 7:09 this morning when the earthquake hit, I can tell you that earthquake, what we do know is that earthquake was felt clear up into southern Idaho, over into Rich County, parts of Wyoming, all the way out in the Vernal, Uinta Basin, as far down south through Millard County. Parts of the state, Beaver South, did not feel the earthquake, but that's how big of an earthquake we're talking about in the effects. What we know right now, and I apologize if I'm sure Governor mentioned a few of these, but just being in and out as things are still active and assessments are coming in. What we do know as far as damages. Damage to the traffic control tower at Salt Lake International Airport. Along with that, some minor flooding which has taken place in one of the concourses at the airport. We have damage to some roadway structures. Our UDOT is out inspecting roadways right now and structures and bridges up on 1200 west over Legacy in Farmington. We have structural damage where there's a little bit of separation on a bridge. Some of that it could be cosmetic, but engineers are now engaged in looking at that to assess further. We have in some of our state buildings, there is some damage where as far as some gas leaks and other damage which has occurred. Ceiling tiles have fallen out of several of our state buildings that we are aware of, as well as some of the local buildings we're getting reports of. That is about the assessment of structural damage that we know at this point. Some, as you've seen with the bricks, of course, that have fallen off of the facade of some of these structures as well. We do have a situation on the property of Kennecott that we are dealing with. It's a chemical hazmat situation where several different chemicals have come together, or at least have the potential to come together. Salt Lake County, of course, is working with that, and we are still mitigating that situation and assessing it as need be. All of our communication systems and lines are still functioning and working, even though there's been a little bit of structural damage to the CenturyLink hub. That is all on the surface cosmetic, and nothing has impacted the structure of phone lines to computer lines to radio communications for emergency personnel at this time. So all of our PSAPs, our public safety answering points, are functioning, fully functioning and working properly, which is the 911 system. Some of those impacts that we know right now, 235 different power outages affecting nearly 50,000 individuals. Rocky Mountain's working on that, and to which they assess that they will have those restored here shortly or throughout a short time frame. Schools have stopped delivering meals for the day, and all of our UTA rail is suspended, which Governor mentioned. Beyond that, I would just like to also, there's a couple of rumors or false narrative that's also going around that we need to make sure we get ahead of. You've heard the fact on a larger earthquake happening. Of course, we don't earthquakes are unpredictable, and we don't know when they will come. However, the fact that this was probably the big one, 95% chance that this was the big one out of this series of earthquakes. We do not anticipate another large earthquake, let alone a 9-point something that's being reported through social media. Another is that people are being told to shelter in place. That is not the case for this earthquake. That is FEMA is not coming out with that. We are in touch with FEMA, working with the federal government. That is not a narrative, though, that we need to panic about or worry about from an earthquake. The other place is the other narrative is in the event of an earthquake, in which we prepare for it with the Great Shakeout, which over 1 million people have been engaged in that every year, is to stand in a doorway. It is actually best to get under a table, a solid surface, or a desk, something that gives you a much more and greater strength and support. So that's just a few of those perhaps rumors or otherwise false narrative that we're trying to combat and get ahead of. We do know at this time that we are working very closely. We are in contact at a state level with all of our counties and county emergency managers up and down throughout the entire state, in addition to the situation that we're still managing with the COVID-19. All of our hospitals and infrastructure of hospitals is up and working, whether it be on full power or even backup power, but they are full functioning and able to continue to address people's needs as they come in for emergency purposes, as well as the testing of the COVID-19. So with that, thank you.
We'll now open it up to questions if you have any.
Does the city have a plan moving forward to help residents assess the structural integrity of their homes and outbuildings as recovery continues?
Yeah, we're working on that right now. As I mentioned, our engineers are looking at the 88 buildings that we own. And just a heads up to mayors across the country, will be looking for support as can appropriately get here to help us make sure that we're doing structural assessment throughout the city in the coming days and weeks. And county has a comment.
So I would just add, that Magna is a township. We have great governance there. The county stays in touch with them, as well as all of the 17 cities and 5 townships within the county boundaries. And we will be looking at the extent of the damage and be in touch with property owners starting, probably tomorrow. Right now, what we're doing is assuring that people are safe and there isn't structural damage that could cause any impacts or any further concern to the property owner. And we just want to keep people safe for now.
Do we have any additional information about the situation at Kennecott? Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Introduce yourself, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Morning, everyone. My name is Clint Meekum. I'm the Salt Lake County Emergency Management Division Chief. With regards to the situation at Kennecott, we have multiple hazardous materials crews and a command structure out at Kennecott right now with that facility. They are currently identifying the chemicals that are involved, as well as the mitigation measures that are necessary. As of right now, the last report that we have received, there is a visible plume. The plume is going up into the air and it is headed to the north. They're continually evaluating the weather and making sure that to ensure that this plume will not impact any citizens. We have contingency plans in place should it become necessary, should the weather adjust at this point. But that's where we're at with Magna.
So at this point, is it a toxic cloud? Is it something that could cause physical harm to people?
The cloud itself,
Yes.
the product is not identified as of yet. We are operating under the assumption that yes, it is. But again, I will reiterate for everybody, the cloud is not impacting any citizens of Salt Lake County at this time. It is moving to the north out over the Great Salt Lake. The crews out on scene are taking great precautions to make sure that that protective posture, should we need to change it, we'll change it in a timely manner.
Taylor?
Just another rumor maybe you can dispel. We're hearing some people are filling their bathtubs with water. They think there's going to be a water shutoff. Any truth to that?
Our water infrastructure seems to be well and intact. Our Director of Public Utilities is surveying our watershed and the infrastructure in that area as well. We haven't received any reports of disruption or any sort of contamination. Water system is normal and functioning, and we will absolutely let you know if that changes in any way, shape, or form. Anyone else?
Can I add to that?
Yes, Jess.
To add to that as well, another that we've also had to answer a lot of questions this morning is with natural gas. Everybody's shutting off their natural gas. There is no need to be alarmed or have to turn off your natural gas just out of the fact of an earthquake. Only if you are able to smell or hear any sort of compromise within your gas system, then you need to take a precaution there. But just to, along with that water question, natural gas is the same thing. Just unless you see obvious signs of or smell, then otherwise you're fine.
If I could add something. We've each spoken to rumors, social media. We will inform the community. We were able to come together quickly. The county was able to pull together a press conference not long after the incident. We will continue to communicate, whether it be here or over at the county ECC. I know the mayor's committed to that too. So when you're hearing things, know that we are sharing information as we know it. We're being transparent with that information, and the rumors that are flying are nothing other than rumors, unless they are from our officials that have spoken today or coming directly from sources that can be verified.
Can seismologists come back again and talk about that? When you say near zero probability, almost certain we can't have. Can you do the science a little bit on that? Why that can't be, rather than just stating it perfectly?
Yeah, so basically the bigger an earthquake is in magnitude, the bigger the area it is that it takes up. And so a magnitude 9 is going to happen over hundreds of kilometers. And so the faults that are in Utah are simply not big enough to accommodate a magnitude 9. Steve Bowman, the geologist earlier, said the biggest earthquake we can expect is maybe a 7.5, a 7.6, and that's based on older geologic evidence. So these rumors, again, that are going around on social media are not true. The University of Utah seismograph stations were not predicting any large earthquake. So the sort of subtle point is that there is a small probability that the 5.7 that happened this morning is going to be a foreshock of a larger earthquake to happen. So if you all remember from California, this summer there was a 6.4, and then 2 days later there was a magnitude 7.1. So that kind of thing can happen, but it's a very low probability, and it's only a few percent over the next week. Okay, and it's getting lower over time.
Chief Brown, this building was built to, and specifically stand something like this. How did that shake out here?
Pun intended.
I wasn't here this morning, but from every account, it was felt, but the building operated just as planned and as it was designed, so we feel very safe here.
Chief, you said something earlier about letting first responders know if you have any symptoms of the coronavirus. If somebody did, what kind of protective measures would those first responders take? And is there any other conditions you're thinking about when it comes to the virus happening in the background of all this?
No, not really. I mean, it would just be the normal things that the CDC has put out, a fever, a cough, but we just want to maintain our social distancing. We're equipped with protective masks, gloves, and gowns, and those type of things. But it would just be nice to know upon approach or as responding to a call what circumstances we may be walking into.
Chief, do you want to also answer what the fire department is doing for that?
Absolutely.
For medical?
To that same question, from a fire department perspective, it's very helpful for us. We would potentially arrive with a mask, potentially glasses, even a gown, if we're responding to someone who is symptomatic to the COVID-19. This is all in, of course, precautionary. If we have a viral infection within the public safety realm, obviously we don't want to compromise the workforce. We want to be able to respond with first responders that are healthy. So that is really helpful to let us know about your symptoms. Yes, sir.
Governor, will you be seeking any kind of an emergency declaration because of the earthquake, or will you be seeking any kind of federal relief in terms of paying for any damage or anything like that?
We've already declared a state of emergency because of the coronavirus, so that's already in place, which allows us to access federal resources, monies to help. We'll expand upon that. All of the counties in Utah have been approved for that emergency declaration to receive. There's opportunities through the SBA and working with local banks to have some financial assistance for our businesses that are being impacted by the coronavirus. Same thing would be true for those impacted, if there are any, because of the earthquake. So everything that can be done is being done right now currently. And let me just add to that, that as you can see today, the state of Utah is really prepared for emergency situations. And the fact we practiced earthquake protocol has allowed us, in fact, to react very quickly here this morning with this incident. You see a coordinated effort with the state, the city, and the county, all working together in concert to make sure we do what the citizens need us to be doing to help protect their health and safety. So I hope that gives confidence and comfort to our citizens to see this coordinated effort, which is really somewhat remarkable. And I pay tribute to the mayors of the county and the city and their team for this coordination that's taking place here today. We still have more to do, and we will coordinate our efforts accordingly. I can't overstate the fact that we have a lot of rumors out there. I get calls all the time about we're shutting this down or we're shutting this down. Social media can be a help or it can be a hindrance. There is a lot of rumors out there, but between the state, the county, and the city, we will make sure that the citizens have accurate information of what they should be doing and how to do it. So if you have concerns, questions, contact your local representative in the emergency preparedness area, the public safety area, and you'll get good information. We all have web pages and websites which will update on an hourly basis to make sure that accurate information is available to the citizens as far as what they need to know and what they should be doing.
Governor, Cluster with the division. There's been a petition going around social media about asking you to freeze the payments on houses, rents, utilities. What do you think about that petition, and have you thought of that?
We hear a lot of things that recommendations what we should do, and of course there are in fact unintended consequences. If we have postponed rent payments, then what do you do about the underlying landlord that has a mortgage payment? It's helping one person at the expense of somebody else, and so we have to be careful about that. But those areas are being explored. We're working with the legislature to see if there's some emergency things could be done on delay of property tax. That would hurt certainly us at the state on property tax collection, and certainly the local governments in a significant way if we delay tax collections, whether it be property tax or sales tax or income tax. But all those are being looked at. I know I've talked with all of our congressional delegation here 2 days ago about the coronavirus and the things that are being done in Washington, D.C. to help us. Certainly resources that will be made available out of Washington, D.C. Billions of dollars are being talked about. We already have an appropriation of about $6.4 million coming from Washington under the initial package that came out of Congress. And we have about $21 million of coming from the legislature to help us on the coronavirus here, specifically from our own coffers. So that's going to be expanded. Again, I mentioned SBA loans and opportunities for grants to help local businesses stay afloat, to help them bridge the gap through these troubled times. But the good news for us is that there is daylight at the end of the tunnel. We're going to get through this. This is a problem, and I don't want to minimize it. But in 2 to 3 months, I expect that we're going to get through the coronavirus and start seeing improvement. And so it's a matter of what can we do to tread water and work together. As has been mentioned by both mayors, we need to treat each other with kindness and respect, help your neighbor. There are those people that need a helping hand in your neighborhood that the government doesn't know about. Government can't do it all. We're not equipped to do it all. We have to rely upon the private sector and individuals and their love for humanity to do the right things in the right way. Use a lot of common sense is really the watchword for all of us. But we're going to get through this.
Hour in the White House has said something about the Defense Production Act. And
I can't hear you. Say that a little louder.
The White House has said in the last hour it's going to invoke the Defense Production Act, but also move masks and protective equipment from its reserves to Health and Human Services. Have you received any information about how?
I have not. We do have later today a conference call with the National Governors Association where we talk with each other. We have, I think, about twice a week we've been averaging, sometimes more with the president and the vice president. As you know, the vice president's been put in charge of this. He's a former governor. He recognizes the role that states have to play in this effort. So that's something I have not heard about. I've been a little busy this morning, so.
Can I make a comment on the coronavirus response? So I just want, from a county perspective, people to know that our coronavirus health teams are working this morning. Our emergency operations center was divided to a certain degree on 2 incidents. And we were able to continue working with teams that had been pursuing needs related to the virus. So anyone who is under quarantine or is concerned about health, we all are, of course, we are continuing to work today. Our health department, interestingly, was huddled and in collaboration in sort of a unified way addressing health impacts that are occurring potentially throughout the county. We've talked about monitoring, continue to the Magna situation. We don't see a health concern right now. The variety of chemicals and matters that could be do not provide at this point a risk because of the direction and the type of substances they could be, but we are monitoring that, and the health department is prepared once we get more information on that, and prepared if necessary to move populations and the general population if need be. So we are unified on the health department side, but all other units at the response center are operating independently. And you will not see, given we did not see a major spike in the last little bit in Salt Lake County, an emergent moment right now on the virus. That's a sustained, ongoing response. So we're in a position to continue those sustained response matters at Salt Lake County. I will share just to build a little bit, I know that Mayor Mendenhall, she's communicated with me and I with her regarding fragile populations. These are of concern to us. They are front and center. And we are, the matter today, frankly, for me, before 7:09 a.m. was addressing those needs, and we'll continue to do that as we work through our public works teams and our emergency responders who are out in the community.
I'm sorry, that's going to wrap it for us this morning. We'll stay in touch as more information becomes available. Thank you, everyone.